Joško Gvardiol is on the verge of joining Man City. By the end of this video, you'll discover why he's literally the perfect defender for Guardiola's City. Now, £85 million is obviously a lot of money. It'll make Gvardiol the most expensive defender in the world. And that's not a guarantee of success. Maguire, for example, used to have that title. But I'm convinced this is going to be a signing more akin to when Liverpool signed Van Dijk for a world record amount, or when United signed Jaap Stam and Rio Ferdinand for a world record amount. Gvardiol is that guy. And here's why City want him. City build up play in a 3-2 shape, with the back four transitioning into a back three as one of the defenders, usually Stones, steps up into the midfield. Guardiola gets his team to do this to accommodate Haaland whilst also retaining midfield superiority. Now, this means the two wide centre-halves in the back three need to be comfortable in those wide areas defensively. When on the ball, they also need to be brilliant at progressing the play, carrying the ball forwards. And they also need to be capable of playing as a nominal left-back when City don't have the ball. So essentially, the ideal left-back in this current system is a left-footed centre-back with experience of playing as a left-back. Laporte isn't suited for this role because he's not comfortable defending those wide areas. He's much happier in a traditional flat-back four. That's why he hardly featured last season despite his brilliant progressive and on-ball abilities. On the other hand, Ake is very comfortable defending those wide areas. Think of the games where he pocketed Saka. Whilst I think he's been our best defender this season, and his offensive abilities have significantly improved, he's still not naturally suited to taking on players or making progressive runs. Gvardiol is the perfect blend of Laporte and Ake. Ball progression and comfort in possession, coupled with defensive solidity and comfort in defending the left side of the pitch. RB Leipzig regularly line up with a back three, Gvardiol being the left-sided centre-half, so he has vast experience in the role. And he's also been used as a left-back at Leipzig, so he knows the position inside out. If you're looking for an on-paper upgrade to Ake in the current system, I don't think there's a better player out there. Gvardiol's profile and skill set means he's going to be the perfect utility defender for Pep. His best role is going to be as the left-back who then becomes the left-sided centre-half when we have the ball. But he'd also be capable of playing as the central centre-back in a back three, as a centre-back in a back four, and I'd go as far to say he can do the John Stones role of progressing into midfield and playing alongside Rodri. Without the ball, it could look like this with Gvardiol as a centre-back. It could look like this with Gvardiol as a left-back. With the ball, it could look like this with Gvardiol, the central centre-half, the left-sided centre-half, or even as a midfielder alongside Rodri if Stones or Lewis aren't available. He is fantastic on the ball, and that's reflected in the data. Over the past year, he's been elite in respect of progressive carries and passes. To say he's comfortable on the ball would be a huge disservice to him. He's actually in the top 4% of centre-backs when it comes to successful take-ons. Better than any centre-back currently at City, even John Stones. So expect him to maraud forwards on a regular basis, dribbling past players. His vision and ability to break the lines makes him the perfect ball-playing defender. Even his switches, one of my favourite Laporte traits, are fantastic as he ranks in the top 10% across Europe. So on the ball, there's no real danger he won't suit Pep's style of play. And it's the same story when it comes to his defensive attributes. Guardiola noted at the end of this season that he prefers the likes of Ake to Cancelo at fullback, due to Ake's ability to win his duels. Gvardiol is over 6 foot tall, is an incredibly strong player, and his brilliant pace means he's hard to beat in 1v1s. He also seems to have that Ruben Diaz gene of continually getting his body in the way of dangerous crosses and shots at goal. He's perfectly suited for the role. He's defensively solid. On the ball, he's extremely comfortable and is actually better at taking on players than any other City centre-back. And he's only 21, so he's only going to get better with age and with Pep's coaching. And he's left-footed. That genuinely matters. I'll be making a future YouTube video on why left-footed defenders are so valuable. Subscribe so you don't miss that one. But essentially, it's to do with passing angles and comfort in possession. It's much more beneficial for a team who build out from the back to have a left-sided centre-back who is left-footed. But Nobbins, I hear you cry in anguish. Don't City already have 87 centre-backs? Do they really need another one? Yes. Yes, we do. Even if Laporte and Walker end up staying, we now play with 4 centre-backs across that back line. So ideally, given the number of games City play every season, we'd have 8 options in defence. When you're relying on players who can play multiple positions and roles, it only takes a couple injuries to those players to realise how light you actually are in those areas. Let's also address the elephant in the room. Whilst Gvardiol was one of the standout performers at the World Cup, Messi absolutely spun him. Whilst he was fantastic in the Champions League, City put 7 past Leipzig in one game. In terms of the game against Argentina, Yeah, he was poor, but come on, who hasn't been torn apart by Messi? And in terms of the games against City, I did think he was at fault for City's first in Germany, so I won't defend him there. But in fairness, in the 7-0 especially, Gvardiol wasn't exactly helped out by his teammates, and it might have been a double-digit scoreline, but for Gvardiol's blocks and interceptions. He did also score in the home leg, so I don't think we should be overanalyzing those few games and conclude that he's a poor footballer. Far from it. He's actually one of the most exciting young defenders in the world. £85 million or there or thereabouts is a huge investment, but I'm convinced he's going to be worth it. Not only for the player he is now, but for the player he will become at City. The Premier League doesn't have the greatest track record when it comes to big Bundesliga signings in recent years. Often they struggle to live up to expectation. Think of Werner, Havertz, Sancho. But City just don't seem to be affected by the so-called Bundesliga tax. De Jong, Kompany, Dzeko, De Bruyne, Leroy Sané, Gundogan, Ortega, Akanji, and of course Erling Haaland. Haaland now defines Man City's attack and could define it for over a decade. At just 21 years old and based on the level he's already reached, I'm convinced that Gvardiol will define our defence for the next decade. Just think about how solid City were when Pep settled on his final system towards the final third of last season. That solid 3-2 base of Ake, Diaz, Akanji, Rodri, and Stones. Now throwing Gvardiol to that already excellent defensive unit, and City become without a doubt the strongest defensive unit in world football. And they also become more comfortable on the ball, and it's another player who excels at breaking opposition lines and creating chances. It won't matter which City defender has the ball, they're all capable of creating and building chances from deep. And I think this would be one of the rarer instances where a player settles in almost immediately under Pep at City. I see it being like a Ruben Diaz situation where he was just world class from his first season onwards. He's already perfectly suited to how we currently play. He just needs a few minor flaws taken out of his game, as Pep will want him to prioritise playing safer balls where possible to maintain control. Pep's once again revolutionised football, doing away with fullbacks entirely this time, and instead building a monstrous wall of ball-playing steel. If anyone can improve this already excellent City defence, both offensively and defensively, it's Joško Gvardiol. And whilst £85 million seems a lot right now, and it is, I honestly think we'll look back on this as a steal. That's how highly I rate this guy. That's how much faith I have that he's the perfect defender for Pep's Man City. I've been desperate for City to sign him ever since we committed to this constant 3-2 build-up with 4 centre-halves. He was my #1 pick, and City's #1 pick, for a reason. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you especially to my supporters on Patreon. Shout out to Miz and Kante. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss another one of my videos.